Boom! What's going on there? I noticed something interesting. Every time I meet up with a friend or a new fascinating person and we have a great conversation, at the end of it I always go, dude, we could have just recorded that and it would have been an amazing podcast. Well, I did that with Jesse Elder. Fascinating guy, amazing story, amazing podcast. Rags to riches again. What a whirlwind. So much wisdom in this. So strap in, enjoy this real conversation that I had, which I turned into a podcast, with the fabulous Jesse Elder. Enjoy. So martial arts schools is where you started off in. Mm-hmm. And which one was your first one?
Taekwondo,
okay.
Yeah.
So not a real martial art then. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I was obsessed with Bruce Lee as a kid. I would watch. I recorded on a fucking VHS Enter the Dragon. How old are you?
Yeah, 42.
42. Okay, so
yeah.
5 years behind you. But on a VHS Enter the Dragon, and I would do all the sounds, and I would just jump. Like
right.
I fucking love that shit. And I got into a fight once in school, and I literally thought I was Bruce Lee, and I was doing jump kicks, and the kid just fucking ran for his life. I was a real badass, and then I got into one fight. Some kid was talking shit on an elevator. I just thought I was indestructible. I really did. And some kid was just talking shit like he's gonna beat up all his friends. I'm like, hey, let's go, buddy. And we got into a fight, and I had a little bit of like summer school karate, and he went in with a kick, and I did a block like this, and it fractured right through. But he had a bloody elbow, and he ran away, and I won. My mom being a psycho, she wouldn't let me see a doctor, so I went around with a fully fractured wrist for like a week, couldn't sleep. It was really fucking brutal. That was my only fight in life. I won, and after that I was like, no more fighting. And
how old were you?
That was it. Like 8, 9, pretty young.
Wow.
But I was absolutely obsessed with martial arts, man. And it's like I had a paper route from when I was young, and it was like this crazy special, like $200 for a year of karate school. My mom was like, no, you can't do it. So I paid for it myself, and the school said, the teacher said I was the best yellow belt they ever had. So I tell you something. But it was just an obsession. It was just so awesome.
It becomes a part of you.
Yeah. But I've never gotten heavily into martial arts. That's what's funny. I've done like little bits and pieces, but never really done it.
Yeah.
The yellow belt in karate. And I did a week of jiu-jitsu, a week for free with Eddie Bravo.
Yeah, I've rolled with him.
Okay, yeah.
Going out to Burbank.
Always like, this guy's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
We had
an 18-minute roll one time.
Are you serious?
I had him in a triangle, and like my future started flashing before me. I was like, the thought came into my head.
Yeah.
I've got Eddie Bravo in a fucking triangle choke, and it was like, it's like a paradox. You can get 80% close, and then you can get another 80% and another 80%, and you'll never ever get it.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I experienced in a visceral way, and he worked it out and tapped me easily. It was awesome.
Even being close is pretty good.
I was happy.
yeah, that's fucking awesome. Anyway, but I was on his podcast once, and he's like, you can work out, I was just in town for a week. He's like, come in. And I did it for a week, and it was so much fun. And I walked out of there like, this is the great, my health improved after a week of just doing it every day. I felt way more better, I was just alive.
Vital.
Dude, it was insane. And I've had like big sex drive drop off in the last few years, and I did blood tests, and there's like a few little things off, but ultimately just fucking getting in there, I just walked out like, I feel fine. I feel great.
Right.
And then I was in New York, and I'm like, I'm going to do a free class. They had a free class, and I went, and the teacher was a dick. And every time I swore, like I said shit or fuck, he'd be like, stop it. I'm like, all right. He was really family friendly. And then one time, I swore, and he literally put me in something. He did something to my arm, and it really, really hurt. And since then, this arm's still damaged. So how did you go from Taekwondo to owning martial arts schools and shit?
Looking back, it was the only possible path. Like you, I was 9 when I started, and homeschooled, living in South Texas. It was like I always wanted to try martial arts, so I tried it, fell in love with it immediately. Like just wow, and just went religiously, like every 3 days a week or whatever it was, and just loved it. And it really that practice and having that as a structure. Something that was engaging, something that was based on setting goals and all of these basic things really helped me through a lot of stuff growing up and looking back. If not for martial arts, man, who knows? I don't know what path I would have taken. Did that 9, 10, 11, 12, and then ended up getting my black belt. And when I was 15, my instructor asked me or told me to warm up the class. He said, Jesse, you're going to warm up the class. And I was like, my heart's pounding out of my chest. I'm like, that poor class must have done like 1,000 jumping jacks, because I couldn't think of what else to do. I was like, give me some jumping jacks. But I put so much enthusiasm into it because I had all this nervous energy that the class was like, wow, that was a great workout. And I was blessed to have an instructor who was burned out, didn't really love the business, sure. Sees this enthusiastic 15-year-old, and he was like, hey. So that day, it was like a Monday, I did the warm-up. Next day, I taught the class. Mm-hmm. Day after that, I was teaching a couple of classes. By Friday, I had a key to the school. Wow. And it was just like...
That's it, huh?
It was awesome. Nice. And so what ended up happening is I just kept teaching. And I had... I wouldn't say terrible social skills. I would say social skills that are inevitable when you don't have a lot of friends your age. All your friends are your parents' friends. And you spend 5-6 hours a day reading. So my social skills were on par for having those other things in my life. Bottom line is, I didn't have a girlfriend, wanted desperately going through this hormonal hurricane of adolescence, and just was always so shy. And so martial arts was really where I began to experience meaningful significance. It's where I began to experience feeling important, feeling like I was making a difference, feeling like I mattered beyond, the family unit. And I became addicted. And by the time I was 17, I told my parents this is what I want to do. And taught these little after-school programs, kept teaching all the way through. And I just knew, like, this is my path. Like, this is what I'm supposed to do. And I didn't even think about for the rest of my life. When you're 17, 18, you don't think about the rest of your life. 20 seems old, when you're 18. Mm-hmm. So I kept teaching and really loved competing. And so I was doing these little point tournaments, and then I found another school in town that was even like really tough, and they were teaching Olympic Taekwondo. And I was like, what? You kick each other as hard as you can? Oh my God. Oh, I gotta try it. So I tried it. I was like, I instantly hooked. So I fought in the state championships, won second place, got knocked out by the guy who won first. It was the only time in my life I've ever been knocked out. Fantastic experience. And kept doing that and just fell in love with training. So I was training, competing, teaching. That was it. Like, that was my life. And around that time, I started getting into personal development because I was so shy and I really just wanted to figure out, like, there's got to be a better way to live life. And applied, a lot of, like, Jim Rohn stuff and Zig Ziglar and all these guys. I was like, wow, man, my thoughts really do matter. And wow, I can choose my thoughts. Whoa, this is a revelation. And then I began to see how that was translating to my behavior in training. And I began to see how it was affecting forward and then back on that cushion towards you. And then, So I began to see how it was really affecting my behavior on the mat, and I started training harder and started adjusting all these things. And then a friend of mine who actually lives here in Austin became my incredible coach and mentor. And this is like in the early mid 90s. And he calls me up. He says, Jesse, there's going to be a pay-per-view event. You got to check it out. I'm going to send you a video. So he sent me a video, and it was like the original Gracie Jiu-Jitsu in action, videos. And I watched it, and I had this visceral primal reaction. I realized that my whole, life since I was 9 years old, I've been following this dogma and this doctrine that now I'm seeing that already I could just tell these guys would destroy anybody I've ever trained with. So the first UFC came out, Royce Gracie wins, and it just revolutionized the martial arts world. And I became hooked, and I just would go wherever I could find. And at that time, nobody was teaching. Royce and Horian were doing this big tour around the country. So, I drove up to Dallas, took a seminar with them, and in the land of the blind, one-eyed man is king. That was me, man. I knew more, just like 10% more jiu-jitsu than anybody, and I was untouchable. Nobody could tap me out. And around that time, I was a bouncer, had my dream of opening my school. The club that I was at decided they wanted to start having these, like these underground bar fights, basically, to just make Thursday nights more fun. So I decided to enter and see what would happen. And my thinking was that if I don't do this now, I'm always going to wonder, what that was like. So I did it and won the first 2 fights, and that became a new obsession. And from that period, I can really trace a lot of the things that I'm involved in now, and a lot of the philosophies and a lot of the things that I teach today are really based on this zero tolerance for bullshit. If it's theory that doesn't produce a result, it's gone. And I learned that in the ring, and I began to apply that in training. And then fast forward a few years, I opened my school, and I began to apply the same thing to sales and marketing, and basically just failed as fast as I could and try to figure it out, which is probably a reflection on some things that I did early when I was growing up, and I was always just fascinated with how things worked. Ended up learning how to market, learning how to sell, and ended up having staff who wanted to do what I did, students who wanted to do what I did. I wasn't willing to subsidize their teaching. So in other words, I wasn't going to go and sign up all the students and say, hey, here's your students. I knew that would just create a culture of entitlement because everybody wants to teach. So we kind of took a Tom Sawyer approach, oh no, you can't teach yet. You got to be able to recruit. And so from the beginning, we were a marketing organization. Mm-hmm. We never called it that, but that's, as we were talking about earlier, that's how this organization grew, because they could fight, they could teach, they could market, and they could sell. And that is like the foundation. And from there, it just grew. And I continued to seek out the best mentors that I could, and was really always seemed to be getting invited to the next seminar, getting invited to the next workshop where the next most successful guy was. And in a couple of years, I was, with the guys that were the top in the industry, and eventually became, partners with a few of them, and just continued to grow. And that's kind of how it was. So I was in San Antonio, got married, she had 3 kids when we got married. So had
with you presumably. You said she had 3.
Oh no, she had 3 when we met. Yeah,
I was like, wait, what?
Yeah,
we were married, but she had the kids on the side.
Hey, delegation, man.
Yeah. No. I want you to have the kids. I don't want to have kids, so it's totally fine.
Well, she had. It was funny because she, her oldest was a student at the karate school. He was like 5 years old, and I was always paranoid about my instructor, my staff. You don't sleep with the parents. You don't touch the parent. You don't it's professional. And then all of a sudden, here I go falling for this woman. I'm like, fuck, man. So I amended the rule. You can't date students, but you're allowed to marry one. And that was it. So we got married, had an instant family, and I was married for 11 years. And it was wonderful for the majority of that. Mm-hmm. And then it wasn't. And so in 2012, I sold the schools, not yet knowing that I was going to get separated and divorced. After I sold the schools, though, and I had all this mental and emotional bandwidth kind of open up, and I really started to pay attention. I realized that it's not good. And so we worked on it, and it just of course you're hearing my side 100%, right? We were just growing in different directions. So I ended up moving out in May of 2013, and ended up selling those karate schools, and effectively the price or the sale of the schools went to go pay for the divorce. So in 2013 I was starting over, and it was really really interesting. Huh. So I had a couple of clients, very very appreciative, and I can laugh about this now, but one of them was paying my car payment, one of them was paying my rent, and that was it. So wow. It was really a sink or swim year.
So dude, you made enough dough to get this fucking house in just 3 years? That's insane.
Less than that. I've been here about a year.
Okay. That's still insane though. That's a huge comeback.
It's an application of, not to sound woo-woo, but there are universal principles that operate through everybody. And it's the same things that I realized when I was winning in the ring. It's because I was allowing certain principles to be at play. When I was losing in the ring, it's because I was resisting those principles or going against them. Same thing is true in money and business. Same thing is true in relationships, and in attraction in general. And so, 2013 was a hard year. One of the hardest years of my life. The divorce, we both had different. Everybody's got a mental blueprint of what separation and divorce looks like, right? Mine came from my parents, who divorced when I was 18, and our completely close to this day, and we have family dinners and holidays and all this stuff. So to me, that's what divorce looked like. You just, you still care for each other, even have a love for each other. You just don't live together, but the family's still the family. And my wife at that time didn't have the same blueprint, didn't have the same beliefs. And so essentially the day that I told her I was going to file, that was the last day that I was at the house. I never saw the kids again after that.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's fucked up.
I can see how my choices led to that being the option that made the most sense for them. And so...
Oh, the kids would have been 11 then, right?
By that time, they
12,
were
12?
they were 19 and 15 and 13.
But surely they wouldn't want to see you now because they're 18.
I think momentum is a powerful thing, and this is a generalization, but if we decide that something is true, and then we continue to think those thoughts and reinforce that story, then those neural pathways just get reinforced, and then it actually doesn't matter what actually happened 3-4 years ago.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. My mom, my dad left when I was 3, so I was just with my mom, and she was a complete rageaholic. Like she'd scream at me, and just her face would turn red. So it was just nonstop all the time, putting me down, beating me. It was really brutal. But she still convinced me that my dad was the evil one because he ran away and all this kind of stuff. And then when I spoke to him when I was 17, he was like, "No, she was insane. I had to go." So, yeah, and still in my mind, I still have some of that imprint of oh, he's bad because she just fucking, that was the story for so long. Yeah.
The brain's powerful, man.
The brain is very powerful.
And the present is powerful. And it's what we're thinking about in the present that's paving the way for, the next moment. And that's actually a huge, in 2013, I was in such a state of uncertainty. Basically I had like a lifestyle ectomy. I went from having a country club membership in this giant house giantish big house in San Antonio and having a multi-million-dollar business and affecting thousands of lives every day and a staff of 53 people and, all this stuff. And within 6 months, all of that was gone by my choice. And so I literally was sleeping on the floor in this little apartment. What I told myself is that, well, I don't want to just ease my pain with, just buying a bunch of stuff. I'm going to get back to basics. I'm going to be stoic. I'm going to be, like the samurai. My mind is my home. That's what. And I really was bought it, hook, line, and sinker. Looking back, the reason I didn't buy a fucking bed is I didn't have any money. That's the truth. And so it was a real year of uncertainty. But in terms of telling a new story, I just began to apply all these principles that I learned in the ring. I just convinced myself that I've already won the fight. I paid my entry fee. The entry fee is $25. Trophy costs $20. So the promoter gets to keep $5. Here's the money for my trophy. Now I just get to go fight so I can get my trophy. That was my mindset. It wasn't I don't know. No, it's my ring. Welcome to my ring.
Yeah, I've been seeing, just as you're saying, certain principles my whole life. They're just there.
They are there, right?
They're just there, man.
Yeah.
They're right in front of you. And I keep getting these little ideas of I just want to make these little YouTube videos talking about these principles. And I never do, only because this has been my problem, which now I finally got resolution on it. But because I'm in the niche of I'm a pickup guru, and people pay, I guess for you it would be moderate money, but for most people, very large sums of money to train with me for a week. So people were expecting, and I've got YouTube following. People expect pickup advice, how to be better, and as a man, and anything man related. So I was very much okay, well, I want to talk about all this other stuff. But I guess this is what they want, so I'm gonna. So I was scared to just break out and be like, fuck it, I'm gonna do this with my life. And just 2 week and a half ago, I sent out my retirement email. I'm moving on. I'm not teaching any more life courses and stuff because I'm not passionate about it anymore. I was, believe me, for a long time. I was all about, because I'm so anti I mean, I think you know, I hate it all. The whole system. I'm an anarchist. I don't believe in any government. I don't believe in any authority.
Yeah.
I know the government is poisoning the food, water, air supplies. They're trying to kill people off slowly and make money off it. The medical industry, all of it, it's all taken over. It's a bunch of really rich families, bloodlines. They control everything. You know all this shit. It's all just. It's not even exciting. It's just that's what it is. Now, that being said. Yeah, for me to be like, yeah, you know, go and talk to the, oh, fuck. I can't do that anymore. But during, this is an interesting thread, but I have to rewind or you won't get the whole story. All right, so I'm going to rewind. So I was, Toronto, grew up in Toronto, ran away from home at 15 because my mom was, you know, it was just really shitty, the whole situation. Ran away, a little bit homeless, youth hostel, stuff like that. But was fine on my own, and I started doing stand-up at 17. I was just funny, and I would just look at the TV and I'd see these comics, and I'm like, I'm funnier than this guy. I know I'm funnier. And I did stand-up at 17, and I did well the first show, second show well, and just kept doing it, and just became a comic. So from 17 to like 30, I was just full-time comedian all around the world. UK mainly. Huh. Yeah. Oh yeah, man. I can go and like, you know, yeah. I that's what I did. It was great, and the paradox was I could get up in front of 400 people and tell jokes, without even like if you said right now I got a big room, there's 400 people there, they need comedy. I could walk in there right now and do an hour-long show. I wouldn't even blink. I would not even for a second. I'd be like, cool, yeah, are you paying me? All right, cool. Right. And it would just be a great time, and it would be no hesitation. It would be the same as you like rolling with a yellow belt. Or hey, can you show this yellow belt like a couple of moves? You'd just be like, sure.
It's in you.
Yeah, no thought. And it was really great, and yet I was shy with women. I had no confidence with women. Could not walk up to a girl and be like, yo, what's up? Couldn't do it. And it was this just gap. It was because I just had no real confidence whatsoever. I was just this scared, really funny kid. And that's how I got into this whole career I got into has all been a fluke. It's all been a fluke. It was just because I hate the clubs. I recognize it to be a scam. Like you got to pay money and dress up nice and go and get girls drunk and fuck. That's rape culture. You're trying to get chicks drunk so you can. What are you talking about? It was disgusting to me, and I just was like, and you know that show you were talking about, the pickup artist. So in Toronto, this is where it's kind of funny. Mystery, I was his first wingman in Toronto, first ever. I met him because I was doing stand-up comedy at a club called Yuck Yucks when I was like 17, 18, and he was just hanging around there, and after the show he was like doing magic for people, and people were like, wow, and I was like, this guy's interesting, and I made friends with him, and I would go out with him, and he would, you know, as he would pick up all these girls in strip clubs and all over, and he would always be doing magic, and I was always saying, dude, you shouldn't have to use magic to pick up chicks, we should just be able to talk to chicks. And he's like, no, I'm going to do the magic. He was just all about the magic. And he was using all these funny lines like, hey, did you know Elvis dyed his hair? And he would just do all these things. But anyway, so we were friends, and I inherited a bunch of money. My mom died when I was like 18-ish, so I was traumatizing. Long story there too, but anyway, she died. Suicide, that was the dark part. So we were friends, and he was hanging out at my house a lot, and we were going out and doing things. And so he taught me that you could actually walk up to a girl and start a conversation. The fact you could actually just do this. I was like, wow, you could just go up to them and talk. And this was like revolutionary. It really was. Like, cause I've always just been there like, oh, that girl over there's good. Yeah, well.
What else has to happen?
Yeah.
Nothing.
No, there's nothing to happen. And I'd always, you know, I was always a good looking kid, so I'd always have girls looking at me and stuff, giving me something, and I would just do nothing. Just nothing. It was brutal. You know, when I was 17, horny as fuck, and just nothing.
Torture.
It's torture. So when I was 26, I read the game. You read the game, right? You must have.
Yeah.
You must have read the game. I read it, and I was like, what? I was pissed off because all these guys are going out there doing all this stuff, and Eric, who was my friend, is in this book. He's huge now, and he still owes me like $40,000 that I lent him for my inheritance from the year 2000. So I was pissed. I was like, this motherfucker owes me money. He's getting late. I was pissed, and so I decided. He told me, I met him up with him briefly, and he said there's a forum, a seduction forum in London called the London Seduction Society. You should join it. And I was living in London doing stand-up comedy because Canada sucks for comedy. They just like hockey. It's really shitty. Seriously, if you're not drinking or playing hockey, no one cares what you're doing. It's really shit. UK though has this, you know, Monty Python, huge comedy culture. Right. People go to drink and they watch comedy shows. It's fucking what it is. It's beautiful.
Eddie Izzard, man.
Oh man. I've written one joke with Eddie Izzard.
No shit.
It's my one little thing, yeah.
That's
in
awesome.
LA, I ran into him in a coffee shop, and I was like, you're Eddie Izzard. I'm like, would you help me write this one joke? And just so I could say I wrote jokes with you? And he's like, sure. And I told him the joke, and he gave me his idea. I was like, okay, cool. Thanks.
That's badass.
Yeah.
That's
he's really
cool.
sweet.
Yeah, I respect him a lot.
Yeah, dude, I know people who know him. He used to fucking die all the time. Like, people would just boo the fuck out of him, and he didn't give a fuck. He was so cool with what he was doing. He just kept doing it, and for years he sucked, and then just boom, one day he started crushing it. Yeah. And that takes something.
Yeah. Wow.
So I'll fast forward to the punchline. So I was pissed off, and in a way, one of my motivations to get good with women was if I got a reputation as being like good with women or whatever, people respected me in the seduction community, I could then go to Mystery and say, look, if you don't pay me my $40,000 you owe me, I'm going to tell everybody you fucked me over.
Wow.
So that was one of my like revenge plot line. But I hated the clubs, and I wanted to get laid, and I just thought, you know what? I'm just going to go on the street, and I'm just going to hit on. I don't give a fuck it. I'm just going to walk the girl and tell them they're beautiful and ask for the phone number. Immediately started fucking girls. Just literally just went outside and said, hey, how's it going? You're cute. Like, let me get your number. And some girls said no, I didn't care. Then I just started fucking. And within 3 months of doing that, I was banging like a really hot girl, and I had all these other dates with other girls, and I was like, this is awesome. And then the rest of the story is inevitable. I'm posting about, you don't have to go to clubs, guys. You can just walk up to chicks and talk to them. It's great. And here's what I'm doing. And guys,
Daygame was born.
Daygame was born, and there was like me and like 2-3 other creators who started it. Really, it's like maybe four people, really.
Yeah.
And so I'm one of I was the first guy to call myself Sasha Daygame, and then after that, other people started calling themselves.
Well, it's so sticky. I mean, it's like wow. Yeah. Because it explains itself.
It does.
So this is fascinating, and I think this is probably part of the larger reason why we're sitting here having this conversation. 2 things. Number one, the feeling that you described of wanting to go and talk to the girl, but you can't. And in your mind, what ends up happening is you build all these other things that have to happen, these elaborate accomplishments or structures or the look or the whatever in order to then do the thing to get the result, etc. So that what's fascinating about that is I experienced the same thing, physically and emotionally as with regards to women. But as a karate school owner, I experienced that financially, and marketing was like, it overwhelmed me, it frustrated me, it made me angry, it made me feel stupid. Like, how come I just want to help people? And I had the exact same experience that you had with women of saying, you know what, I'm just going to go out and talk to them. I began doing that with the karate school and began spending an hour a day, rain or shine, just going up to people and saying, hi, have you gotten one of these yet? It's a guest pass. My name is Mr. Elder. I'm the instructor at the karate school. And I would just like will myself to go and shake 20 hands a day. And we'd just develop this very, in the training, we ended up calling it thick skin, open heart. Like care about people, don't care what they think. Right. And just develop this thing. And within a very short period of time, the classes are full. We start increasing our prices, and the business doubled in a year. We doubled again. We ended up doing 4 doublings as a result of that one philosophy. What do you need? You need you, and you need the other person, and that's it. And so the comment that you made about not knowing anything about me and like this guy's website sucks and all this other stuff, it's because all you need is competence, commitment, and in marketing, people who are in pain.
Right.
And if you've got those 3 things, you don't need all that other shit. You don't need a funnel. Right. You don't need traffic. I mean, those are cool. I mean, absolutely scale it. But you don't need it. So fascinating. And it's the same application. There's one of those universal principles.
Yeah. There's another. Well, this is one of the principles I noticed myself, which again I haven't told anybody. I maybe mentioned it once casually. But there's nothing beats the one-on-one connection with a human being. Nothing in the world. Not fucking email, not Skype, nothing. You sit there with the human being one-on-one and you fucking talk to them. You can help them, you can influence them, you can get them to take action, you can get them to buy stuff. It's just all about the one-on-one. Nothing beats one-on-one. Nothing. It's just one of those things. It doesn't, and that's why when I did Edinburgh Comedy Festival, I've done, I don't know how many times, 5 times or something. I had the most sold out show in the history of the Edinburgh Fringe, of the free Fringe, because there's the paid one and there's the free Fringe where, it costs shit tons to do the paid one. So I'm like, I'll do the free one. And I had 100 people in there, just on flyering. Just walk up to people, make some jokes, connect. No, you gotta come to the show. And people be like, you're hilarious. I know, I'm like, come to the show. Boom. Just me and like another guy or 2 that I just trained, and we just packed the place up. People couldn't pick professionals, comedians. I was already professional on them, but people were paying tens of thousands for PR, all this stuff, I had more people. I had more people. Me and a couple of fucking students who I was paying like £6 an hour and I let them crash on my couch. We crushed it.
Because you're real.
Yeah, because I was just fucking there, like fucking doing it, you know. So people, and I got mentioned in the Guardian as like one of the best flyers in the festival. But I was just being fun and just being an idiot, you know, and wearing a stupid hat. I was
just doing what you wanted to do.
I was doing what I wanted to do.
Doing what you felt like doing.
Dude, my whole life I just wanted to do stand up, and I had a fucking blast. I never made a lot of money, but I had a blast. I could open for Joe Rogan, which is cool. Joe Rogan said I was a funny motherfucker. How many people can say that?
Good on your resume.
That's not bad, right? And I had literally one of the other best comics in the world literally say, I don't want to go on after you.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't want to follow you. It's too much, you know, you're too funny for me going after you. And literally one of the best Canadian, you wouldn't have heard of him, but Canadian comic who's respected as one of the greats said, you're not going on before me. So I had moments where I'm like, okay, I'm good at this. This is really cool. And then I got into this shit by complete fluke. I started fucking all these hot girls, which was amazing, you know, and I started posting about it, and inevitably guys were like, well, can you take me out and show me some stuff? And I'm like, well, pay me a little something. Right. And it just sort of, in fact, I did it really sneaky. A transition from giving free advice to pay was this is another principle that I think you recognize right away, but it's fascinating. What I did was, rather than just saying, hey, people pay me money, I didn't do that. There was another guy who was also coming up like me in the community, and he wanted to do a makeover. He was very good at dressing guys, making them look very sexy so that women would give the signs, and then you can go over. There's different strategies, but he was just very fucking good at making guys look amazing. And he said, look, there's this kid, he's one of our forum members, and he just doesn't have any money. Great kid, I really like him, I want to help him out. I'm just looking to raise 200 British pounds to get him a sick outfit. I want to do a makeover. Come on, guys, everybody just pitch in a little bit of money. And what did I do? You know what my move is, don't you? Come on. You know, I know you think like I think. What did I do?
You just went out.
Huh?
Go.
I just said, hey guys, okay, so I'm going to raise 100 pounds for this guy. So for 50 pounds, I'll take you out for 2 hours. I'm going to show you everything I know of a daytime pickup. I got 2 guys right away. They crushed it. They immediately started getting dates with women. They started posting. Everyone was like, holy fuck, this shit works. Business was born. A whole career was born. Yeah.
Cross that line.
Oh yeah, that was it. But it was a great way to cross the line by helping, by just doing something, by showing off my skills to help someone else. It doesn't get any purer than that.
Universal principle.
And everyone in the world was like, oh, that's so awesome that you did that. But hey, hang on, this guy's getting laid now because of your stuff. So that happened. And and then at some point, inevitably, we decided to film me. And this is funny too. I was actually teaching, and it was just a beautiful day in London, sunny day. It doesn't happen that often. And I just thought, you know what, I had my cameraman with me, and one of my kind of instructors was sort of teaching, and we were wrapping up the day. I said, fuck it, turn the camera on, I'm going to hit on some girls. And I did 17 girls. I hit on them, boom, 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 getting their phone numbers, just had a blast, just had fun, did not give a fuck. Was in a great state. If girls had boyfriends, I'm like, oh, you broke my heart, it's fine, I love you anyway, okay, I'll see you later. And I put that, and I remember when we made the video, I had the footage for like a month, didn't even put it up, and I was gonna like look through, and then I looked at the guy, my camera guy, I was like, look man, put it all up, don't edit anything, what do I gotta hide?
Wow.
Just put it up. And so that video went, just a guy not giving a flying fuck, just hitting on stunning girls, getting their numbers and shit, and that just crossed over 1 million, a few weeks ago.
No way.
Yeah,
wow,
it's my first million views.
Good for you.
But within that community, no one had done that before. No one had shown like no lines, no nothing. Just going up to girls and just being like, you're fucking sexy. We gotta hang out. What's your number? Just not giving, and being rejected and being like, oh come on, not giving a shit at all. That was revolutionary. And from there, the whole thing took off, and thousands of people across the world. In some cities, you can't even do it anymore. If you go down Oxford Street in London, I'll approach a girl now and she'll go, I've heard it all before. Because so many guys started doing it. When I showed you could do it, people just were like, well, this guy. And I was dressed like shit, like just a normal douchebag.
Right.
So it really created a massive subculture. And the whole thing is, and it just came from me loving what I do and hitting on girls and just being me. And the comedy skills helped because I was being really fun and playful and just being a fucking dick. And that's the lesson that people still thank me for, and people still come up to me on the streets and shit. Just from learning, you were just being you, and you didn't care, and you were just having fun, and you were just being authentic, and you didn't give a fuck. And just people go off and they do that in their own way, and that's how I've changed the world so far.
And that's a gift that you give by being yourself.
Yeah, and I just was able to do it on a bigger scale than a normal person. A fascinating thing that Bashar. Okay, so
Brendan?
No.
Oh, no.
When I'll
Bashar, the channeling.
Yeah,
I've heard about it.
Oh,
yeah.
dude.
Yeah.
You're gonna like.
Yeah.
One of the things he said that blew me away.
He said Brendan Burchard.
No. He's all right too, but he's just all business and money. Fuck that guy. Anyone who just takes it like just making money is their own thing. That's not life, man. That's not what life's about at all.
He's a very smart guy. And,
yeah.
But that's totally his niche.
Yeah, but there's so many people who are just, you gotta make more. It's like, fuck off. No, you don't. But Bashar said, this really. He basically said, your presence on this planet is the greatest contribution that you could ever make. Just you being here is the greatest thing that you will ever do. Anything else that you do is merely a reflection of that, but it is not the main. He said it better. But just by being here, you've done it. Just you being here, you're making the change. Everything else is just supporting evidence. Yeah. And I was just like, I heard that, I was like,
it landed for you.
Dude, it took the pressure off. I'm just like, and I know I'm affecting people in a great way, and it's just like, that's enough. You know, but of course there's that voice in my head, it's like, no man, you should be way more famous, and you know, I've got the gift, and you know, people who know me say you should have a talk show. Every time, people that really know me are just like, you should be, you know, like all these guys, Jimmy Kimmel, all these guys, I shit on them. You put me in a room with thousands of people and a guest, I will be fucking on fire.
They're puppets too. I mean, they're pushing a different agenda.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't be in that position anyway.
No, I guess not. Anyway.
But you're poised for something far more impactful for that.
Well, this is the thing. You're gonna be one of the first few. Well, you're gonna be like the second person I'm gonna tell what I'm about to do with my life. Yeah, it's gonna be pretty epic. So I'll wrap up the story. So that happened. It was awesome. Blah blah blah. I started coaching and making money, hired people and whatever, and pretty much most things in the business other people do now, and just do the emails and make videos, and maybe I'll write some email, you know. But basically there's people doing all the stuff. I have a great video editor, one of the best on the planet. Like, it's all cool. But I don't know shit about business, honestly, nothing. I've learned so much and I've studied so much. Yeah, I'm a comic. I'm not a business.
You know more about business than most business people do.
That's true. But even still, I feel like I know nothing. I wouldn't even consider myself successful. But I fucking helped a lot of people, and I feel good about what I've done. But I feel like I'm just getting warmed up now, though.
Yeah.
I'm just getting warmed up.
Yeah.
Yeah. But here's the funny thing about you. I saw your website, I'm like, well, I'm doing better than that guy. That's what's so funny. I've got like 30 G's in Bitcoins and some silver. Here you are in a fucking... That's hilarious.
The thing is that
I'm like, oh, this guy's got potential. He seems like a nice guy. I'll give him some tips when I see him. You know, literally, that's what I thought. I'm like, oh, he's probably a cool guy. I'll probably be able to help him out with some business advice. Literally, that's what I thought. And I showed you. I'm like, I'm an idiot. It's so funny.
It's all relative, man. And what's funny is that, like, when you say that you don't know business or whatever else, it's like looking at someone who's academically gifted or academically accomplished and saying, I'm not as smart as that person because they've got whatever fucking degree or anything else, and yet you know that if they stepped out of that intellectual cocoon, they would die. Like, they would literally be homeless, they would starve, and they would die, because outside of that artificial ecosystem, they're helpless. So the academic side, and then the actual, like, what works side, you could teach a class in any business school in the world based on what you already know and based on the story you've already created for yourself. And in terms of, you know, income, I mean, that's something that I've thought deeply about in terms of wealth creation, income production. Those are two totally separate things. And, you know, I've often thought in those moments where I feel a comparison, you know, compared to where I should be or could be or whatever else, because there's always another level. You know, that's what human beings do, man. We got this fucking prefrontal cortex that allows us to see a future different than the present. And for guys like you and I, and, you know, anybody else that we're going to roll with, the future that we see is always better than the present. And so as long as we're looking at that future and comparing it to the present, we're always going to be in the gap. We're always going to feel less than. And you can't experience progress looking forward. The only place you can experience progress is looking backwards. So the one thing that will close that gap, and this is a huge central philosophy to everything that I teach with clients and video, I mean, everything that I'm doing in the world is really about helping people make peace with their present, because whatever is going on in the present is preparing the next moment. And you can't punish yourself into prosperity. You can't suffer your way to success. All you're going to do is practice punishing yourself. And anyway, but my point to that is that the money is so readily available. And I used to see this happen with karate guys all the time. And they'd be like, I owe $36,000 in credit cards, and I don't have any money in savings, and I'm barely making rent, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, all right, cool. You've completely identified accurately, you've identified the inevitable results of your past thoughts and your past behaviors. So this is not a fucking fixed, we didn't curse at the karate guys as much, but this is not a fixed thing. This is the inevitable echo of what was going on before. Here's what's going to happen. 6 months from now, you're going to have $100,000 in the bank. I guarantee it. You do exactly what I tell you, exactly the way that we train you to do. Suspend your ego long enough. The only people that are going to know that we helped you are you and I, because we're not going to go promote our stuff. Everybody's going to think you hung the moon. You're going to have $100,000 in the bank. You're going to have weekends off, which is big for the karate guys. You're going to have it. And they would be like, oh, okay. And they would change. And all next thing you know, they're like sending screenshots of, I made a $15,000 deposit and went straight into my CD, which is a terrible investment, but it's good for a karate guy who's used to spending it all.
Hey, did you know that this podcast is brought to you by the Infinite Man Summit, and that Jesse Elder himself is speaking at the Infinite Man Summit this September 16th to 18th in London, 2016? Did you know that? Did you know that there's an Infinite Man Academy where we help you with all your life stuff in a group? Over and over a period of time. Did you know that that's happening? Just in case you wanted to know. InfiniteManSummit.com. In case you were curious. Okay, back to the podcast.
The bottom line is that we get caught in this. Quote here somewhere. I thought it was on that one. We get caught in this cultural hypnosis that says it is what it is. Fuck that. It is what it was. And everything that is right now, reality, whatever the hell that is simply an echo of what was happening yesterday and the day before and the day before. So, I appreciate incredibly the lifestyle that I have, but I don't feel grateful for it, not one bit.
Even to the big guy upstairs?
He and I are partners.
Mm-hmm. So you don't feel grateful to your partner?
No. Not grateful. A sacred appreciation.
Mm-hmm.
But the word gratitude, and this is semantics, I'm sure, but the feeling of gratitude and the feeling of deep appreciation, biochemically, it's probably the same exact thing. Same exact feeling. My observation is that when people use the word gratitude, it's in a reactionary state. Something happened first, and now they're feeling grateful.
I see.
And it takes away your power.
Because you're waiting for something to happen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so
what's the right?
There's no right, that's the thing. There's no right, there's no wrong, it's all free will choice. But in terms of my partnership with whatever we want to call the creator, which humans have been trying to name the unnameable and describe the indescribable since we have words and fucking rocks to draw on the walls. When I was a kid, I grew up Catholic, was baptized Catholic, and I remember reading the Bible. And in the Bible it said, God created man in his image. And I remember reading that and being a kid and going, oh, whoa. And I became so excited. You know why? Because I knew that one day I was going to be a man. It excited me so much to think that it says right here in the Bible that when I'm a man, I'll be able to do everything God can do. I just didn't doubt it. And then in the New Testament, when Jesus said, that which I have done, the least of you shall do, if you have but faith the size of a grain of mustard seed. And I remember going to we had literally the encyclopedia, Britannica. We had all the volumes. And I remember going to M and thumbing through it, going through the pages, smelling that, ink from pages that were stuck together because they never got read. And I go to M and I find a mustard, and there's a picture of a mustard seed. And when I saw how small that fucker was, and I realized that if I just had faith, which I didn't know what that meant back then, if I had faith that size, then I could do everything Jesus could do. Sign me up. And so I took all those things literally when I was a kid. And I began to realize the amount of incredible control that we're given. And, you know, if God put us in a simulator, he also gave us the ability to write code.
Yep. Yeah. You know, you can sum it up for most people in one sentence. It really comes down to one sentence. For anything, any question, all people's problems, everything, people come to me and they ask. I was always giving. Now I literally just say, follow your passion. Everything they ask me, what do you like doing? Yeah, do it. But I can't. Yes, you can. Do it.
Yeah.
Every fucking question people ask me, yeah, are you doing what you love with your life? No, fuck off. Do that. If you do that for a year and then come back and tell me you have problems.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's literally, dude, and that's all I ever did. I wanted to do stand-up, did stand-up, fucking crushed it, had a great time, great comedian.
Okay,
same thing with the women. That's all I've done.
And here's the secret to the worldwide success of your influence, is because you're congruent. Because you would never tell somebody to go do something that you haven't experienced, done, or at least heavily observed with your own senses. And because of that, when you tell somebody, are you doing what you're passionate about? And they say, no. You say, go fucking do what you're passionate about. You can say that because that's who you are. So that's why you get results.
But I've been living it. But not in the last year and a half, and that's why I've been feeling like shit. And now I realized, okay, I'm done, and now I feel like I'm good again. But anyway, that's my story. Are you glad I came over here?
Yeah. I was glad the moment you texted me, it was right. Thank you, man, for sharing that, because that's not easy to approach the sharing of that. Once you start sharing, that's why you're here.
Yeah, very few people get the full download on, like, what the fuck I am.
Yeah.
So, who the fuck are you?
I think the same energy. I don't think that's a bypass. I had not in as direct a way. Like when I was a kid, we got a pretty big family. You know, I'm the oldest of 5, and I'd be sitting at the dinner table. We would have dinner together a lot. I mean, more often than not. And I'd be sitting there, and my brother and my brother and my sister and my mom, my dad, like everybody's there. I'm like, somebody's missing. Like frequently, always this feeling like somebody's missing. And to the point where as I got older, I like ask my mom, I said, did I have a twin? You know, like, you know, did one of us not make it? You know? And she's like, no. And it's, I mean, we have open, like we've talked about everything, and there's not a secret there. But I would always have this feeling like somebody's missing. And then I would have feelings frequently growing up of being homesick in the middle of my house, loved by my family, and homesick, and just missing home and not really knowing why. And as I learned to cope in the world, primarily through intellect and language and understanding that, first time I ever got in a fight, it wasn't a fight, I was like 6, 7 years old, and my neighbor, who I was really good friends with, he came over and we were playing, and something about, I don't even remember what game we were playing, but he got mad and he stood up and he came over and he just punched me right in the stomach. You know, 8 years old, 7 years old, and I'd never been punched before. I'd never been struck before. And I'm just sitting there like in shock. And immediately what came up was not to fight. He was bigger than me and stronger than me. But I was reading all these comic Tintin, the comic books, and I was reading, and there's the captain in there who's this real salty character, and so he's cursing, but not really because it's a comic book. And I looked at my friend, and I just said, "You're a nincompoop." This is the strongest profanity I could muster. Totally broke his pattern. He put his hands down, and he started crying because he didn't know what I was saying. He walked away. He hopped the fence. He went back to his house, and I was safe. And I didn't realize it at the time, but that was the beginning of an incredible trajectory, because I realized that words are power, and words can save you, and words can protect you. And I used language for a long time as a shield to appear smarter, to be smarter. But that feeling of not fitting in, and more than that, not being from around here, that feeling never went away. And I just ended a relationship about 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. And leading up to the end of that relationship, just overcome with feelings of sadness, and just feeling like, wow, like I haven't felt that in probably 20 years, since before I opened the karate school. And it was all those feelings again. It was the feelings of like I don't belong here. Like I'm not from here. And I've got a philosophy that's served me very well, and is pretty foundational to what I do and how I move in the world. And the philosophy is that I care less about whether something is true than I do if it's useful. And so I've never found it particularly useful to dive into where I'm actually from, what that might be about. I've gotten really clear feelings and intuition that I can find out, and I'm sure I'll find out if it becomes an issue or important to me. But I had enough experiences to show me why I'm here. And once I got that, I just stopped questioning it. And in that period when I was in my early 20s, spending a lot of time alone, living by myself, being very, very public at times and then very private at times, same as happens today. But during that period, I was really in a phase of expansion in terms of, I want to know who I am. And that was my dominant question. I want to know why I'm here. I want to know who I am. And dude, things would just happen. I was driving down the road one night, San Antonio, coming down the highway, middle of town. It was like 2:00 in the morning, and no other cars on the road. And I'm just driving, and there's a guy walking on the side of the road, like into traffic. I was the only traffic. I go like this, and it was just so fast. I was just like, whoa! And there was a dude, and I stopped, and I backed up a little bit, and this guy's like staggering in the middle of the highway. It's like 4-lane highway. He's now in the middle, and I'm looking back up the hill towards where I came, and here come all these cars. I'm like hauling ass toward this guy, grabbing him. He's reeking of alcohol, and I grab it, and I'm like struggling, pulling him back, and we make it out just as these rush of cars comes by. And I'm laying there like, what? And then down the side of the embankment, we see flashlights and, these people that were looking for him, and they come up to the top and yelling, like, hey, hey, and they come up to the top, and they're like, we looked for, we had a party, and he got mad, he was drunk, and he wandered off, hey man, thanks. And I'm like, okay, cool, he's with you guys. So they helped him down, it was fine. And I just got in my car and drove home like it was nothing. And then it hit me, I was like, man, if I would have been 2 seconds early, or 2 seconds, the guy's here, boom, 2 seconds earlier I would have hit him. 2 seconds before, I wouldn't have seen him. And it was just like, and that shit happened all the time. And it taught me things about myself. It taught me things about beliefs that I'd had about death since I was growing up. I didn't go to a funeral until I was probably like 28, 29 years old. It just never worked out. It just never worked out that I went to a funeral. And I always had this relationship with death where it just wasn't a thing. I remember being a kid and riding my bike to go back home from where I was. And there's a dead squirrel on the side of the gutter. And when you're a kid, a boy, you stop your bike and you get off and you look and you're fascinated. And I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, this looks like a squirrel, but that's not a squirrel. And in my mind, a squirrel was this jumping, energized, chattery thing. That was a squirrel. This is not a squirrel. And I remember sitting there and just thinking, okay, this is weird. Like, it looks like a squirrel, but it's not a squirrel. And that moment, this candy bar wrapper blows by. It was a Butterfinger. I'll never forget. This Butterfinger wrapper blows by and blows by the squirrel, the body of the squirrel. And I was like, oh, that's the wrapper. Mm-hmm. Got it. So the actual thing isn't there anymore. And so this is the wrapper. So no need to be sad. Like, that's the wrapper. It's going to go away. The thing that was the squirrel is somewhere else now. It's just not there. And so I had experiences of, being on the first one to a scene of an accident where there's a guy that got hit by a car and thrown 40 feet, his legs tangled under him, and I just go up and, like, somebody else is calling 911, and I just held him. And there's just, he's like twisted and like mangled and barely breathing, and they're coming on the way, and I just knew, like, I'm not here to resuscitate him. I'm not here to give him mouth to mouth. I'm not here to do anything other than just be with him. And he died with his head in my hand. And I remember feeling like this should be a big deal. And it wasn't. It was beautiful. It was like watching a baby being born.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Very interesting.
And then I had one other experience of being in a fight and ended up going to the hospital afterwards and had a collapsed lung and all this stuff, and getting really present to, how am I doing? And the answer is, I'm fine. I was like, what? I just got my ass kicked. I've got thousands of dollars in hospital bills. My entire world just saw me get my ass beat by this guy who technically had cheated, but in a no rules fight, there's no cheating. They put Vaseline all over him because they knew I was going to take him to the ground. I just couldn't handle it. I couldn't grip. And he just, bam, one shot after another for 3 5-minute rounds. I just ate so many punches. He was like 45 pounds heavier. And so the result of that was I ended up in the hospital. But what I got out of that was asking, how am I? Answer I get back is, I'm fine. I'm like, wait a minute. I just got physically beaten and destroyed, and yet I'm fine. Well, who's the me that got his ass kicked, and who's the me that's fine? Vroom, 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 answer after answer. Mm-hmm. You're not your body, man. You have a body, but you're not your body. Mm-hmm. And you get to have it for a period of time, and even the body you have today is not the body that you had 3 years ago, because cells turn over, and you are just a projection of your thought. And as long as you just continue thinking about the way you want to be, your body's always going to be the way you want it to be. Disease is an illusion. It doesn't really exist. You're pure energy, so just allow that, and allow. That was the word that kept coming through, allow. And like that, I was probably like 21, I think, 22. And I stopped being afraid of shit. Fears, of course, they come up, and that's fine. But like the overall knowing that all is well, that I can't die, I stopped being afraid. And so I'm never worried about money. You go through stuff, when you got people's payroll on the line and you don't know how you're going to pay it, but then you just get resourceful and you're like, oh shit, there it is. So that, I just know that I'm here to be a light and to shine, and I believe the greatest freedom in life, for the greatest freedom, the greatest gift is the gift of your own joy and happiness. And that's the contribution. Very, very similar to what you shared. And that's enough. And that there's nothing else that has to be done. Mm-hmm. But of course, you're not going to withhold from action because action feels good. Why would you want to withhold from action? Why would you want to delegate eating the steak or sleeping with the girl? Or, why would you wouldn't delegate that stuff? Because it's inherently pleasurable. And it's full of effort that you would never want to disengage from. So eating the meal is pleasurable, unless it's a meal that you're eating that you don't like. Then why the fuck would you do that? Action is the exact same way. Action, when it's inspired, aligned, is inherently pleasurable, and you never want to back off from it. It's action that's out of alignment that sucks. So don't.
This is why it's so depressing that so many people, because they believe they need to work in order to eat.
Okay.
They just
so here's
trapped the whole planet.
But here's the greatest freedom, and it hasn't trapped the whole planet.